I thought I was the luckiest man alive. You know how in movies, there's always that moment when a guy looks at the girl and everything else fades? The crowd disappears, the noise dies down, and it's just them. That was me the moment I saw Meera walk down the aisle. She looked like everything I'd ever dreamed of, and more. A vision in crimson, her eyes dancing with a quiet fire. I couldn't believe she was walking toward me. Me, the guy who once slept on office floors building a business no one believed in. The guy who lost everything twice before finally making it big. My name is Aarav Malhotra, 32, founder of a growing tech firm based in New York. A self-made man, or that's what the magazines say. What they don't say is how lonely it all was. Success tastes a lot like ash when there's no one to share it with. But Meera, she changed that. I met her back in college. She was this quiet storm. Smart, funny in that dry, sarcastic way, and so stunning it hurt to look directly at her. We weren't instant lovers. No, ours was a slow burn. She was my anchor during those stormy startup years. I'd call her at 3 a.m., rambling about code and caffeine, and she'd just listen, encourage me, or tell me bluntly when I was being an idiot. And that's when I knew this was the woman I want to build forever with. Our wedding? It felt like a fairy tale. Not the Disney kind. More like one of those soulful, aching stories that stays with you long after the last page. Family, friends, music, food, and her hand in mine. That day, I promised her forever. After the wedding, we moved into my family estate, a sprawling old property just outside the city. My parents had passed a few years back, so it was just me, my younger brother Ved, and now Meera. Ved, he's the kind of guy who lights up every room he walks into. Wild heart, golden spirit. He was over the moon about Meera joining the family. Called her Bobby, with a grin so wide it made my chest swell with joy. And Arian, my best friend since high school, he was the smooth one. Always dressed like he walked off a runway. Always had the right words. He toasted us with some poetic line about soulmates and sunsets at the wedding. That man could charm the anger out of a hurricane. Between Ved and Arian, they planned our honeymoon to Santorini. Beach villas, candlelit dinners, even a helicopter ride. I felt like I was finally living a life I'd fought for. Love, success, family. For the first time in years, I let my guard down. And that's when the first crack appeared. It was 2 nights after we moved in. We were lying in bed, wrapped in each other's warmth, the glow from the moon peeking through the curtains. I whispered something stupid, something cheesy like, "Can you believe this is real?" She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand. Late, very late. She reached for it fast, faster than I'd ever seen her move, and turned the screen away from me. I didn't say anything at first. I mean, people value privacy, right? But something about the way her shoulders stiffened, how she turned off the screen, without reading the full message. It didn't feel right. I tried to brush it off. Maybe it was nothing. A spam text. A cousin. A group chat. But then she tucked her phone under her pillow and turned her back to me. No goodnight, no kiss. Just silence. And me? I lay there wide awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering, why did that feel like the beginning of something I wasn't ready to face? Why did it feel like the woman I just married was already hiding something from me? I told myself I was overthinking. That love didn't come with suspicion. But deep down, a voice whispered something I didn't want to hear. What if the woman I gave everything to wasn't the woman I thought she was? I don't know when it started exactly. Maybe it was the night Meera didn't kiss me goodnight. Or maybe it was the morning she left without saying a word, her perfume lingering in the silence like a goodbye I wasn't ready to hear. At first, I told myself I was imagining things. She was tired. Work was crazy. That's all, right? But the cracks began to show. She used to sit next to me, legs tucked under her, head resting on my shoulder as we watched old movies. Now, she sat across the room, scrolling endlessly on her phone, barely looking at me. She used to call me at lunch just to hear my voice. Now, she texted me 3 words, running late again. She was always running late. At first, I waited for her with dinner on the table. Candlelight, her favorite wine, her favorite song playing low in the background. Now I just kept the food in the fridge and ate alone in silence. It wasn't just the distance. It was the avoidance. She flinched when I touched her. Her smile never quite reached her eyes. And when I looked at her, it felt like I was looking at someone I used to know. One night, I woke up to the sound of her voice, soft, affectionate, almost girlish. Not the way she spoke to me anymore. I sat up. The bedroom was dark, but the faint glow of her phone lit up her face on the balcony. She was whispering, laughing. I couldn't hear the words, but the way she spoke, it crushed me. That voice wasn't mine anymore. She hung up when she saw me watching from the shadows, said it was a client, smiled like nothing was wrong. But I knew, God, I knew. I told myself it was just stress. That marriage changes people. That love matures, becomes quiet, becomes distant. But then Arian pulled me aside, my oldest friend, my brother in all but blood. He looked at me with eyes heavy with something like pity. Something's off, man, he said. She's cold. I don't know how else to say it. Are you sure she's okay? I laughed it off, told him Meera was just under pressure, that she was working on a big campaign, that she'd come back to me when things settled. But his words haunted me. The worst part? I couldn't talk to her. I didn't know how to ask my own wife if she still loved me. So I stayed quiet, and the silence grew louder. Mrs. Sinha, our housemaid, noticed too. She's been with my family since I was a teenager, more like a second mother than staff. One morning, as she folded Meera's laundry, she looked at me with gentle concern. She doesn't smile at you anymore, she said quietly. I froze. What do you mean? She used to smile like you were the only person in the world. Now, her eyes don't wait for you. They look past you. Her words cut deeper than she knew, because they were true. I started remembering how we met, how broken Meera was when I found her. Her eyes were always red back then. From crying, from hurting. She'd just come out of a toxic relationship with that bastard, Karen. He was cruel, controlling, the kind of man who made you feel small just by breathing near you. I was there when she had no one, when her parents disowned her for leaving him, when she slept on a friend's floor with nothing but a bag of clothes and bruises that weren't always visible. I gave her more than love. I gave her a new life, a safe home, a future, a family, and now she couldn't even look me in the eye. Why? Why would she betray me? What changed? Was I no longer enough? Was I ever? I stood in front of the mirror that night, staring at my own reflection, my tired eyes, my shaking hands, my breaking heart. And I realized something painful. IT wasn't just Meera changing. That IT was me. I was changing too. I was becoming someone I didn't recognize. Quiet, unsure, desperate. And still, I loved her. God help me. I still loved her, even as doubt poisoned every part of me, even as trust slipped through my fingers like sand. The next day, I decided to talk to her, to finally ask, to finally know. But before I could open my mouth, her phone buzzed. She looked at the screen and smiled, not at me, at the message, and something inside me broke. I don't know what pushed me to follow her that night. Maybe it was the way she'd been acting lately, distant, distracted, like her soul was somewhere I couldn't reach. Maybe it was the unanswered calls, the fake smiles, the way her eyes dodged mine when I said, I love you. Or maybe my heart already knew it was about to be torn apart. The city was quiet, shadows dancing beneath the streetlights. I stayed far behind her, my hood up, my hands trembling in my pockets. I kept telling myself I was being stupid, paranoid, that I was losing my mind. But I followed her anyway. She walked like she had a purpose, faster than usual, no hesitations, like this wasn't the first time. And when she turned into that dark alley behind the old cafe, the one we used to sneak into during college, I knew something was wrong. So wrong. I stopped at the corner. My heart pounded so loud I was scared she'd hear it. I peeked around the wall and saw him. Karen. Fucking Karen. The same man who once made her cry in the middle of the night. The one who used her, hurt her, made her question her worth. The man she told me she never wanted to see again. And yet there she was, standing inches from him. I felt like the air had been knocked out of my lungs. I reached for my phone. I don't even know why. Maybe I needed proof for myself. Proof that this wasn't a nightmare. That what I was seeing was real. Then it happened. She smiled. She smiled. And he leaned in slowly, like this was some goddamn love story. And then they kissed. They actually kissed. My whole body froze. My mind screamed, but my lips couldn't form a sound. My fingers gripped the phone. So hard, I thought it might snap in two. I should have stormed in. I should have shouted. I should have done something. But instead, I collapsed. Right there, in the shadows, I fell to my knees. Like something inside me just gave up. My chest ached like someone had taken a knife and slowly twisted it, right in the center of my heart. Tears blurred my vision, but I couldn't look away. I just kept watching, kept recording. The girl I loved, the girl I trusted more than anyone, the girl I was going to spend my life with, was kissing the man who once destroyed her. I don't remember how I got home. My legs carried me, but I swear my soul didn't follow. It stayed there, in that alley, bleeding on the cold concrete. The moment I stepped into my apartment, I lost it. I screamed. I shouted. I punched the wall until my knuckles bled. I cried like a kid who just realized monsters are real, and they were the faces of the people you love. Ved rushed in, panicked. Bro, what the hell happened? I didn't speak. I just handed him my phone. I watched his face twist as he played the video. At first, confusion, then shock, then silence. He didn't say a word. He didn't have to. His eyes said everything. Is this real? He whispered. I laughed. A broken, bitter laugh that didn't sound like me. You tell me. Ved sat beside me, stunned. The room was quiet except for my heavy breathing. I leaned against the wall. The pain in my hands, nothing compared to the storm inside my chest. I didn't even know her, I said quietly. All this time, all these years, who the hell was she, Ved? He didn't answer, because there was no answer. How do you explain betrayal by the one person who swore they'd never leave? How do you heal from a wound that didn't just cut your heart, but shattered your faith, your identity, your truth? I thought back to all the nights Meera cried in my arms, telling me how Karen had ruined her. I was the one who held her, who promised her safety, who told her she'd never have to see him again. And now she had chosen him. Over me, my chest tightened. I wanted to forget, to erase her from my memory. But memories don't die on command. They haunt. They scream. They burn. I stared at the ceiling, my voice hoarse from screaming. She lied to me, Ved. Every smile, every touch, was it all fake? He looked at me, his eyes glassy. I don't know, man, but you didn't deserve this. No, I didn't. But maybe I deserved to know who she really was. Maybe it was time to stop asking why and start asking what now. Because something inside me broke that night. Something I don't think will ever come back. And as the hours dragged on, I realized something even worse than the betrayal itself. I still loved her. God help me. I still loved her. Even now, after everything. But love doesn't survive lies like that. Does it? I should have known. There was something about her silence lately. Too perfect, too controlled. I thought it was distance. A rough patch. Just another fight we'd heal from. But it wasn't that. It was a calm before the storm. That evening, I didn't scream. I didn't accuse. I just walked into our penthouse like a man already grieving. Meera was sitting on the couch, sipping her wine as if she hadn't just set fire to everything we built together. She looked up. You're home early. Her voice? Still sweet. Still poisonous. I stood across from her, holding the folder Advocate Malhotra handed me just hours earlier. Inside, screenshots of email threads, bank transfer logs, backdoor server access alerts, NDAs she had violated, all pointing to the woman I married. My wife. I dropped the folder on the glass table in front of her. She glanced at it, flipped it open, and skimmed through the pages like it was just another piece of junk mail. Then she laughed. Not nervously, not with guilt, Cold, controlled, cruel. I was wondering how long it would take you, she said, swirling her wine. Honestly, I thought you'd find out sooner. My breath caught in my throat. So it's true. Oh, Ryan, she said, standing, walking over to me. Her eyes gleamed like polished obsidian. Of course it's true. I couldn't speak. Do you want to hear the whole story? She asked, like she was about to read me a bedtime tale. Or should I skip to the part where I tell you why I married you? I clenched my fists. Why, Meera? Why the hell would you do this to me? Her smile vanished. You ruined my father, she said flatly. My heartbeat pounded against my ribs. What? You don't even remember, do you? Her eyes narrowed. 10 years ago. Maheshwari Textiles. You called it a hostile takeover. But it wasn't just business to him. It was his life's work. And you humiliated him. Publicly. You tore him apart in the press. You made sure no one would work with him again. I stepped back. Your father was Mr. Maheshwari? She nodded slowly. His name doesn't mean anything to you. But to me, he was everything. I was numb. I remember the deal, one of the first ruthless acquisitions I'd ever made. I was young, aggressive, and convinced that winning was all that mattered. I never thought about the people on the other side of the boardroom. He died in disgrace, she said, voice shaking now, not with sadness but fury. Broke, ashamed. He drank himself to death while people laughed at his failure, while you thrived. I opened my mouth to say something, anything, but she wasn't done. I made a promise that night, she whispered, her voice like acid. I would destroy you, not with lawyers or press releases. I'd do it the way you'd never see coming. I'd make you fall in love. The room tilted. You didn't just fake the love, I said, trembling. You married me, slept beside me, shared my life. I made you trust me, she said, taking a step closer, eyes locked on mine. And while you were smiling at me like I was your world, I was feeding your secrets to your enemies. Karen and I, we were never just friends. We were your funeral in disguise. I collapsed into the nearest chair. My knees gave out. You're lying, I muttered. Even though the evidence was right there, this can't be real. It can't. You think your company's sudden losses are just market trends? She scoffed. Your investors pulling out? The leaked prototypes? The failed acquisitions? That wasn't bad luck. Ryan, that was me. I stared at the floor. My thoughts scrambled, trying to find a way out. A loophole. A dream I hadn't woken up from. I loved you, I whispered. She didn't flinch. And I used it against you. The silence that followed was the loudest thing I'd ever heard. Then my phone buzzed. It was Advocate Malhotra. I picked up, barely able to speak. Yeah. His voice was tight. Urgent. Ryan, I just traced another offshore transfer. Half your liquid assets are gone. The board's panicking. Your shares are tanking. We may be looking at a total collapse if we don't act immediately. My hand shook as I lowered the phone. I felt like I was falling off a cliff, but the ground never came. Meera looked at me. You took everything from me, Ryan. I'm just returning the favor. Tears welled up in my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. Not in front of her. Not now. I stood slowly, shoulders trembling. This isn't over. She smiled again. Oh, sweetheart, it already is. But I wasn't done. Not yet. Even as the walls closed in, even as everything I had built over the last 10 years crumbled around me, I knew one thing. She wanted revenge. But now, so did I. And I was just getting started. I always thought rock bottom was a metaphor, some dramatic line people said when they were feeling sorry for themselves. But I was wrong. It's not a metaphor. It's real, and it has a taste, like metal, like blood, like the bitter dryness at the back of your throat when the world starts falling apart, one piece at a time. It started with a letter, a thick envelope with my company's name printed across the front in bold, official letters. Inside, a lawsuit, a big one, accusations of fraud, a breach of contract, lies. At least, I wanted to believe they were lies. But the damage was instant. Clients pulled out. Phone calls stopped. Emails vanished. Within 3 days, the name I had built with my blood and years of sleepless nights became the punchline of every news anchor smirk. And the banks? They froze everything. My business accounts. My personal savings. Even the emergency fund my father had once helped me build, just in case. I guess this was the case. But none of that shattered me as much as what happened next. Meera left. She didn't even say a word. Just packed a suitcase quietly while I was on the phone, fighting with another banker who suddenly couldn't help. I heard the soft zip of the bag behind me, turn around, and she wouldn't even meet my eyes. "I need space," she whispered. "I can't do this with you anymore." And then she walked out. The woman I once thought I'd die for left when it felt like I was dying. The headlines came faster than I could breathe. Fraud CO exposed. The rise and fall of Ryan Cole. I didn't even recognize the face they used in the photos. That man looked tired. Hollow. Arian and Ved stayed. My best friends since college. They tried everything. Called lawyers, begged the press. Even tried to get some old clients to vouch for me. But none of it mattered. They were helpless. We all were. And I just started to break. First, I stopped answering the door. Then the calls. Then I stopped going downstairs. My body ached, but I didn't care. I didn't eat. I didn't sleep. The world outside was burning, and I had no fight left in me to put out. There was a night I remember more vividly than the rest. It was raining. The kind of rain that sounds like 1,000 knives against your window. I stood in my room, barefoot, staring at my reflection in the mirror. I looked like a ghost. Skin pale. Eyes sunken. Hair matted. I whispered, "What's left of you?" And I didn't have an answer. And then I opened the drawer. There it was. The diary. My mother's diary. I had forgotten it was even in there. She passed away 3 years ago, and I couldn't bring myself to read it then. But something about that night, maybe it was a storm, maybe it was a silence, made me reach for it. The pages were yellowed. The ink faded in places. But her handwriting was still the same, gentle, like a hug you didn't know you needed. I flipped through memories of a woman who had survived her own storms, poverty, betrayal, cancer. And then I landed on a line I swear was written just for me. Even when the world burns you, don't let the ashes bury you. I read it again, and somehow something shifted. Not all at once. Not some dramatic rebirth. Just a flicker something. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't fall to my knees in some cinematic moment of clarity. I just sat down, and for the first time in days, I breathed. I let myself breathe. The world was still a mess. I was still broke, alone, humiliated, but maybe, just maybe, I wasn't finished. I closed the diary gently, like I was tucking her voice back into my heart. I still didn't know how to fix everything, or if I even could, but I knew I had to try, because if the ashes were all I had left, then I was going to rise from them. Somehow, you don't realize how strong you are until being strong is the only choice left. After everything collapsed, my name, my finances, my trust, I stood in the ruins of what used to be my life, breathing in the dust, trying not to choke. I didn't cry. Not this time. There were no tears left to shed, just a quiet ache and an overwhelming silence. The first thing I did was cut the noise. I shut out everyone. Friends turned strangers. Relatives who only called when things were good. All of them, gone. I kept only 3 people close. Ved, Arian, and Mr. Malhotra. The ones who had stayed when everything fell apart. Loyalty like that, you don't take it for granted. I sold everything I could. My second property, a luxury car I barely drove, even the antique paintings Meera once picked out for the living room. Every item came with a memory. Every transaction felt like cutting off a limb. But I needed to survive. And sometimes survival demands sacrifice. With the little that was left, I rented a 1-room office on the edge of the city. The walls were cracked. The AC rattled like an old man with a cough. The desk was secondhand, and the chair made a squeak every time I leaned back. But it was mine. It was a beginning. Ved, the genius that he is, took charge of all things tech. Coding, building the website, automating systems. I watched him work day and night, eyes bloodshot, fingers dancing across the keyboard like this was his own second chance. Arian, on the other hand, worked his magic in suits and boardrooms. He used every contact he had left, every ounce of credibility he could squeeze from our shared past, to get meetings with investors. Most doors slammed shut, but finally one opened. A group of investors from Dubai. Stern, sharp men with heavy watches and heavier expectations. They didn't care about my past. They cared about numbers, vision, grit. I gave them all three. I showed them the fire that hadn't died inside me, just gone quiet for a while. They saw it and they invested. We didn't start big. Just a small tech consulting firm with 3 clients, a broken coffee machine, and hearts full of stubborn hope. It wasn't glamorous, but it was honest, and that mattered more than I ever expected. Around this time, a girl walked into our office, CV trembling in her hands. Nina, just an intern. No fancy background, no high-level references. But something about her reminded me of myself. She was kind, sharp, and brutally honest in a world that rewarded deception. I hired her on the spot. She stayed late when she didn't have to, took notes even when no one was watching, cleaned the office herself because we couldn't afford housekeeping. In a world that had just shown me betrayal in its ugliest form, Nina became a quiet symbol of loyalty. And as we grew, slowly, painfully but surely, I began to hear whispers from the world I had once belonged to. Meera's new company, the one she'd built with the money she stole from me, was slipping. Clients were complaining. Investors were pulling back. Some of her decisions didn't make sense. It was like she was chasing quick wins instead of building something real. Then came the photo. Karen, her partner, was spotted with another woman, young, flashy, unmistakably not Meera. The image went viral in seconds. Rumors flew. Denials followed. But the cracks had begun to show. I didn't comment. I didn't post. I didn't gloat. I just watched. Quietly, calmly, because karma doesn't knock. It kicks the door down when it's ready. And I had work to do. I was busy turning my ashes into bricks, one day at a time. But deep down, a part of me knew this wasn't over. Not yet, not even close. They say revenge is best served cold. But no one ever tells you how quietly satisfying it can be when karma does all the work for you. It started with an email. Just one. A simple notification from my legal team. The board has approved your offer. Congratulations, Ryan. You've won the deal. I stared at the screen for a few seconds, not quite believing it. This wasn't just any contract. It was the one Meera had poured months into, the one her firm was betting their future on. The one they lost to me. I didn't celebrate. I didn't jump around or open champagne. I just sat there, letting the silence stretch around me. The kind of silence that fills your lungs and makes you feel alive again. A few hours later, I got a ping from Arian. Bro, check the news. You're going to want to see this. I clicked the link. There she was, Meera, standing in the middle of some high-end cafe in downtown L.A., screaming at Karen like her world was ending. And maybe, in a way, it was. Her voice cracked as she yelled about betrayal, about how he lied, about the other woman. She slapped him. Not once. Twice. And all of it was caught on camera. It went viral within minutes. Every gossip blog, every business channel, every whispering corner of the internet was suddenly talking about her, but not in the way she used to like. This wasn't polished, graceful Meera anymore. This was the raw, humiliated version. The cracks were no longer beneath the surface. They were bursting wide open for everyone to see. By the end of the week, 3 of her biggest investors had pulled out. I didn't smile. I didn't feel pity, either. I just watched, like someone sitting on a hill watching the storm flood the valley below. I didn't cause the rain. I didn't move the clouds. But I wasn't going to run from the view. Arian called me later that evening. She came to my office, he said softly. I didn't reply. Just waited. She was crying, man. Not the kind of crying you can fake. It was broken. She asked if I'd seen you, if I could convince you to just talk to her. Said she didn't know where else to go. I let the silence speak for me. She looked wrecked. Ryan. She said losing you felt worse than anything Karen did. I laughed quietly, not out of joy, out of disbelief. Now she feels it. I remembered how she looked the day she left me. The calm in her eyes. The way she didn't even flinch when I shattered in front of her. The sound of the door closing behind her felt louder than any scream I'd ever heard. She was hoping you'd unblock her, Arian added, almost hesitantly. I checked my phone that night. Messages, missed calls, unknown numbers, all ignored, all her. I didn't unblock her, because sometimes the best kind of closure is no closure at all. I wasn't out for revenge anymore. That hunger had died a long time ago. What I had now was colder, quieter. I didn't need to ruin her. I didn't need to burn her life down. She was doing that all by herself. I just had to stand still and let karma dance. And the funny thing, she danced slow, real slow, like she wanted me to feel every step, every twist, every graceful unraveling of the empire Meera built on lies and ego. I got another call the next day, this time from a mutual friend. Did you hear? Meera's company is on the verge of collapse. Clients are leaving. Her board's turning on her. I just nodded. There's a strange peace that comes when you no longer crave justice, when the pain that used to hollow you out now fills you with steel. I didn't wish her harm, but I didn't wish her well, either. She had made her choices. She had played her games. And now, she was losing everything. Not because of me, but because karma has a rhythm of her own, and Meera, she never learned to dance. It had been months since I last saw her. Months since her voice echoed to my skull, like a haunting lullaby I couldn't shut off. But today, that silence shattered, right in the middle of my new beginning. The elevator door slid open, and there she was, Meera, wearing the same perfume I once buried my face in. But something had changed. Her eyes weren't the fire that used to burn through me. They were ashes now, empty, hollow, red, like she hadn't slept in weeks. She took one step toward me, then another, and dropped to her knees. I froze. She didn't care that people in the office were watching, whispering. She didn't care about her pride, her name, her status. All that remained was this broken version of the woman who once destroyed me with a smile. "I'm sorry," she whispered. Her voice cracked like glass beneath a heavy foot. "I'm so sorry." My heart didn't know what to feel. Anger? Sadness? Relief? "You loved me," she said, eyes glossy. "I know you did. And I loved you too. But I was drowning in my own hatred. I let it blind me. I let people poison my mind, and I didn't fight it. I chose revenge over love. I chose pride over you. I didn't move. I couldn't." She pressed her hands to her chest, as if trying to keep herself from falling apart. "I wake up every day thinking about you, wondering if you still hate me, hoping you're okay. I know I don't deserve forgiveness. I know I burned everything we had, but I just needed you to hear me say it. I regret it. All of it. Every lie. Every wound." For a brief moment, I wanted to believe her. For a brief moment, I remember how she laughed when I made her coffee too sweet. How she'd fake anger and steal the last slice of pizza. The little dances she did in the kitchen. The way her fingers laced into mine like they were made to fit. But then I remember the nights I cried until my pillow was soaked. The mornings I woke up gasping, my chest tight with grief I didn't have a name for. The betrayal that left me choking on memories that I stepped back. Her tears were real, but so was my pain. "I loved you," I said quietly, with my whole damn heart. She looked up, eyes wide, trembling. "And you buried it alive." Her lips parted like she wanted to say something, but nothing came. Just the silence. Just more tears. I turned around, walked away. Each step I took felt like cutting a cord that had strangled me for far too long. I didn't expect her to follow, and she didn't. She stayed there, kneeling, shaking. Maybe she finally understood what it felt like to be left without answers. Maybe this was my closure. Not a dramatic goodbye. Not screaming or slamming doors. Just the quiet walk into peace. The pain didn't vanish, but it loosened its grip, and for the first time in a long time, I breathed without aching. I reached the elevator, pressed a button, and stared at my reflection in the metal doors. I looked different, stronger, older, a little sad, maybe, but free. When the doors opened, I stepped inside. Behind me, I heard nothing. No footsteps, no apologies, just silence. Maybe that's how real closure sounds. But something tells me this wasn't the end. Not yet. You know what's strange? Peace doesn't come all at once. It doesn't knock on your door one fine morning with a bouquet and an apology. It creeps in quiet, cautious, like it's unsure if it's even welcome. For a long time, I lived in the shadow of pain. I chased justice, screamed into silence, begged for closure. But somewhere along the way, I just stopped needing it. Not because I got all the answers. I didn't. Some questions will never be answered. But I realized something far more important. Revenge wouldn't give me my life back. Living would. So I started living again. I rebuilt my company from scratch. Not for anyone else. Just for me. I poured my heart into it. Every late night, every pitch, every client meeting. Slowly, people began to notice. Respect grew, not from pity, but from perseverance. I was no longer the man who had lost everything. I was the man who rose from it. Soon, universities began inviting me to speak. Business colleges, conferences. Students would sit there, notebooks in hand, eyes full of questions. And for the first time in a long while, I wasn't afraid to share my story. The failures, the betrayal, the collapse. But more importantly, the climb back. One day, after a long speech at a college in Seattle, a girl came up to me with tears in her eyes. She said, "Your story reminded me that heartbreak doesn't have to define me. Thank you for surviving, so I could too." That moment stayed with me. Because maybe that's the point of all this pain. Not to be buried by it, but to show someone else they don't have to be either. A few months later, I stood before a different kind of crowd. No applause, no stage, just wind and silence. I was at my mother's grave. It had taken me years to find the courage to go back, to stand there without guilt weighing down my soul. I knelt beside her stone, fingers trembling over her name. "Mom," I whispered. "I made it. I don't know how. I should have fallen apart. But I didn't. I survived, and I hope that counts for something." And in the stillness, I swear I felt her warmth again. Not in the wind, not in the trees, but inside me, like she'd never really left. Nina came into my life quietly, like peace did. What started as a helping hand slowly turned into laughter over late-night coffee, brainstorming over business strategies, and sometimes sitting in silence without needing to fill it. She understood my pain without prying into it. She respected the ghosts I carried and never tried to replace them. And I noticed her, too, not in a loud, all-consuming way like I once noticed Meera, but in a way that felt safe. Like home. I don't know if Nina and I are meant to be something more. Maybe we're just two broken people learning how to heal beside each other. Maybe that's enough. Maybe it's just the beginning. And Meera? Yes, I still think of her. Not every day, but sometimes. A song she loved, a book she never finished, a memory that flashes without warning. But it no longer feels like a wound being reopened. It feels like history, a beautiful, dangerous, unforgettable chapter in my life. She taught me love, real, consuming, terrifying love. And she taught me pain, sharp, cold, and without apology. I've forgiven her in my own way, but I haven't forgotten. Because forgetting would mean pretending none of it mattered. And it did. Every scar I carry now has a purpose. They remind me that I survived something that tried to destroy me, that I didn't give up, that I am still here, living, breathing, and maybe, just maybe, ready to feel again. But just when I thought the past had finally loosened its grip, something happened that changed everything. Again, I used to think love was enough. That if you gave someone your whole heart, no matter how shattered, bruised, or fragile, they'd hold it like it was sacred. That love by itself could fix the cracks, heal the wounds, and erase the past. I was wrong. Love is beautiful. But love without trust is poison. It's slow, it's silent, and it seeps into every part of you until you don't recognize your reflection anymore. The man I used to be, he was soft, hopeful, desperate for someone to see him, really see him. He thought that if he bled honesty and showed his scars, someone would love him harder for it. But not her, not Meera. She saw my truth and used it against me. She saw my love and treated it like a leash. And when I needed her the most, when my soul was on the floor, begging for mercy, she walked away. But here's the thing about pain. It either destroys you or it builds you into someone no one ever saw coming. And that's exactly what it did to me. I stopped explaining myself. I stopped proving my worth to people who never deserved to measure it. I started walking away from conversations that only existed to hurt me. And I realized silence isn't weakness. It's power. Because silence makes them wonder. It makes them sit with their guilt. And it gave me something I never had before, peace. I became a man who didn't need to scream to be heard. I let my actions speak. I let my absence echo louder than any apology she could have given me. And I didn't hate her. That's the part people don't understand. I didn't hate Meera. I pitied her because she lost something rare. Not just me, but the version of me that still believed in her. The version that would have crossed oceans just to hold her hand. She didn't just break my heart. She buried the only part of me that was ever hers. She left me in ruins. But I built a kingdom from the rubble. Every betrayal carved a lesson into my soul. Every lie became a brick in my foundation. And every night I spent alone, asking why I wasn't enough, became fuel. Not revenge. Not bitterness. Just strength. I look in the mirror now, and I don't see the broken boy she walked away from. I see a man who survived her storm and came out sharper, wiser, and unapologetically whole. Do I still believe in love? Yes, but I believe in love that doesn't hide knives behind smiles. Love that doesn't need to be tested with pain. Love that shows up on the hard days, not just the beautiful ones. I'm not the same man anymore, and that's the point. Because the version of me that loved Meera, he was necessary. He taught me compassion, vulnerability, depth. But the version of me that survived Meera, he's the one who will never be broken again. I've stopped asking the universe for answers. I've stopped chasing closure. I realized sometimes your enemy gives you the gift your friends never could, the truth. And that truth, it set me free. Her story ended in regret. She chose fear over love, lies over loyalty. But mine didn't end. It began in pain, in silence, in the ashes of everything she left behind. But it moves forward now with strength, because real power isn't about being unscarred. It's about being scarred and still standing tall. And me? I'm standing, not for her, not to prove anything, but because I finally found something worth standing for. Me. And this time, I'm not letting go.